Morning, everybody. Today is June 1st, 2018. This is MMA Junkie Radio's pre-show, the show before the show. I am Goz. That's Dan. The voice you hear in the background is Danny Okers.
That me.
And then our site coordinator, Randy's here.
Randy. Pew, pew, pew,
Pew,
pew.
pew, 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 pew. How's everybody doing today?
I'm doing fine, Gosh.
I'm good. It's Friday. There's absolutely nothing to complain about.
Yeah, you can find something.
Why would you, though? We got this show, and then we got weekend. And you got fights tonight for people who like fights.
You know,
Yeah,
as crazy as it
people that are watching the
was,
show.
as crazy as it was, I actually like that. I kind of like this feeling today. Like, usually I'm doing.
Weekend free
minutes?
a little bit more.
Well,
minutes.
it's weird because I'm doing articles or like doing some type of written assignment to turn in the day of, the morning of before the show.
Mm-hmm.
So with it on Friday, all my articles were already done. So I was like, the whole time I was getting ready this morning, I'm like, I need to be doing something, but I'm not. Like, it felt weird not to have my laptop attached to my hip. Like, it was like it was nice. I was like, this is how normal people get ready. They get ready.
I'm going to grab my coffee, but I want you two guys to think about something
Banter.
before I come back.
Banter.
What is everybody going to have for lunch today?
Okay. Danny, you go first because I know yours is going to be
Mine always makes him upset, so I'll just say it before he gets back. I have a protein bar during the show because I'm doing the show.
What's the difference between a pheasant and a chicken, though, Danny? Can you explain that?
Well, a pheasant is a little bit more of... I don't
Just
know.
kidding.
I don't even know where to go.
Sure,
I literally don't even know where to go with that because I don't know what the difference is.
It's funny. That was just such a poor attempt to throw off Goes while we're on broadcast. It's just clearly being outed, you know. I'm going to have... I don't know. I might spoil myself. I usually eat like the three same things in an effort to try to keep my, playing detective on my digestive system. But I may go something of that route. You know what I'm saying? I may allow myself to have a little bit of type of breading, if you will, on my food, for a second here.
Chicken wings? You gonna have hot wings?
No, that's very northern New York, though. I mean, that kind of fits Utica, right? I mean, it's not Buffalo, but I mean,
you gonna get a bucket of meatballs?
It's not much there in Utica, so you gotta.
Oh, Dan! I forgot to tell you. The really quick because we're just about to start. The new meatball is a lamb meatball.
Oh, have you been there again?
I haven't gone back, but I saw the sign. Stand by.
Oh, you son of a... Awesome. Go get some for me.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMA Junkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Gold. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'!
You should be calling me out, too.
Yeah!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us. Can you dig it? There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communications stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMA Junkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes, our co-host. To my left, the fight analyst, Dan Tom. Back east, producing as always, Danny Otto, and our site coordinator, Randy from San Francisco, chilling in the house. What's up, guys?
What up?
Not much.
Happy it's Friday?
Yes and no. It's like a weird Friday because there's fights today. It's kind of throwing me off a little bit.
Well, see, I'm thinking that's a bonus now that I think about it. We talked about this on recent Daily Debate yesterday, I believe, where what's your night of preference for MMA?
Well,
Now think about it. it's Friday. Everyone's in a good mood. And look, I get it. If you had plans to go to a game or a concert or something, I get it. But if you don't, and Friday already starts off with a bang, literally, 3:30 p.m. I think is when the first fight is going to go, Pacific time, 6:30 Eastern, and you got a night of fights, that's our wheelhouse, fighting. And think about this. It now frees up your entire Saturday. Like, there's a way to look at it.
Our guest wants to know if they can do 11:30.
Yeah.
Yeah, Danny.
Okay.
Oh, I'll let him know.
All right, cool. Well, we have two guests, because you're talking about
the one that was
the
supposed
ones
to be
that
right
start.
now.
Okay, yeah, that's no problem. Yeah, there was a couple options anyway, so
Look at
that'll work.
Randy. Look at Randy's face.
What happened?
He's thinking, hey, that looks cool as shit. Where'd these guys get that? Have you ever seen Randy's house?
Oh, dude, it's out of control. I've never seen anything like it. Yeah, I mean, if he, that's how dope that must be. If Randy is raising an eyebrow and checking it out.
What does he have? Pee Wee's Playhouse? What do you guys saying?
Dude, way better
What's the
than
word of
Pee-wee's
the day?
Playhouse.
Oh, you mean less creepier? You mean?
He has every Marvel, MMA type of memorabilia you can think
There's
of.
like a 5-minute
say
video,
Marvel?
and right away, just the kitchen alone will blow you away. But then when he shows you everything else, his shoes, a little out of control there, Randy. I was a little concerned about you, to tell you the truth. But okay, so let me catch you all up. So you noticed on the show preview that we're going to talk to Tyron Woodley today, the
Yeah.
UFC welterweight champion, also an analyst at Fox Sports, and Walt Harris. We were actually going to start the show with Woodley, but that's what Goes was alluding to. It looks like we are going to end now with Tyron Woodley. We'll talk to him, pick his brain about this main event, co-main event going on this weekend. And, of course, we'd like to get an update on his shoulder injury because we like seeing him fight. You know, that's the bottom line. We love seeing the top fighters in the sport fight when they're healthy and ready and available. And Tyron spoiled us. You know, he had that one run where I think 18 months were off. Because, you know, he's only been fighting since 2009.
Crazy to think
And
about.
it's 2018. But really, his last fight was in 2017. So in 8 years, he had 21 fights. It's a little bit over a 3 fights per year average. That's really not the end of the world. He had that 18-month spell where he didn't fight. But I always remind people, after Gastelum, he signed up to fight Hendricks. Hendricks didn't make weight. They canceled the fight. That's why he didn't fight, but he actually weighed in. And then, of course, he waited out his opportunity to become a world champ. But once he became a world champ, he had, if I'm not mistaken, 4 fights in 10 months. So now, the injury that's set him back, that hasn't had him fighting for the last 10 months, yeah, one could say, hey, where's Tyron been? But I don't think in any way you could point a finger and go, oh, man, the guy just loves to take time off. Is his mind in the game, blah, blah, blah. He started the sport a little bit later than most because he is 35 now. But I think in 2009 he had 5 fights. Like, he had a busy schedule. And you really don't look at too many years where you go. The other day I was pointing out, I think Pichel, I don't know if Dan recalls, but I said he's only fought once in 14, 15, 16, 17. Like, Pichel knows this.
But he got hurt, didn't
and right. Yeah, exactly. But that's 4 years in a row of doing that. And there's quite a few fighters that if you look at the record, they just sometimes they can't help themselves, whether it's an injury or anything else, and they go through that sort of a spell. And Tyron hasn't had that, but a lot of people love to give him shit over how he waited out to get the title and the 10 months since this last fight with Maia.
Connor had something pretty similar too.
Connor, well, yeah, Connor can't point to an injury though.
That's the thing.
Yeah. Connor can point towards,
but
health.
he did
say,
fight his
I
ass
don't need
off
to, you know, but Tyron's, he's had the labrum, which I don't think it was the severity of Kane's. I'm sure there's degrees of tears, but you know that is an injury that can have you out of the sport for a while. All right, so Walt Harris will join us first, and then Tyron Woodley, and the rest of the time it's all about you, Junkie Nation. Now, I know there's a hot topic out there, and we are going to discuss it amongst us as well, but I think this is one we'll spend some time on. That video that came out of Darren Till cutting weight, very alarming, very concerning. It has caused a big ripple effect in our sport. Many people, having opinions on it. Starting with the media and of course the fans, but so far that the head of ABC, Association of Boxing Committee, said the corner should be suspended for what they witnessed or assisted in, or their lack of assisting. I don't know. Everyone's having an opinion on this, but let's go back to the video itself. I'm sure you've seen it, Goes.
Yeah.
What did you think when you were looking at that?
You know what? I may sound like an asshole right now, but to me it was just an opportunity that there were cameras there and they captured that. But you'd be surprised how often this happens. I mean, it really... You could tell he didn't look too good, but there's a lot of fighters that do this pretty often.
Right. The one difference in this one is...
They cut the cameras.
Him saying his eyesight.
Yeah.
He was losing his eyesight.
Yeah.
We hear about the dehydration stage. We've heard plenty of times about the kidney shutting down. Just the other day, somebody's
Picking
leg was
people
shaking.
up
Whose
and
leg
off
was
of-
shaking the
out of
other
the
day?
sauna.
Oh, yeah. That was the day after he had rehydrated.
Mm-hmm.
Aguilar's opponent on Tough. Still haven't caught the episode, damn it. But this is the first time I recall seeing anything about somebody losing their eyesight.
I mean, yeah, it's part of the process. But as far as like picking people up out of the sauna, somebody just kind of laying there, not really saying much, all that type. Like, remember Cyborg?
Mm-hmm.
I thought Cyborg's looked a little bit. As far as Darren's eyesight, yeah, that's bad. But mentally, he didn't seem like he was breaking down the way we've seen other fighters like just completely break down. Cyborg being one of them. Remember her crying on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So it looked bad. It looks bad on camera. It looks bad to a lot of people who aren't really familiar with this process, and it is bad because fighters just shouldn't be doing it to that extreme.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to say it was the worst thing we've ever seen because
Really?
I think it just happens a lot.
Man, for me, it was one of the worst, if not the worst.
Really?
Well, the eyesight thing. The whole dragging of the body and seeing what they're going through. You're right. Cyborg's kind of, cut me up a little bit, too, just seeing that.
I mean,
going,
like,
wow.
think
Because
Uriah
Cyborg's
Hall,
was one of those
right?
who were like,
Like-
you got to get to 35 and fight Ronda, and like just seeing what 40 was like for her.
Wouldn't you say Cyborg and Uriah Hall? Those were worse already, right? Wouldn't you say that?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, those two.
Hearing about Hall. Well, I didn't see it. Okay,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. I thought you meant there's like a lot of YouTube videos out there of others.
No.
Yeah, hearing about Hall, that one sounded bad. And Habib's, I don't think anybody was exaggerating when they said he could have died that night. That's how bad he was. So, anyway, what do you think about the corner when it got to the eyesight part of it? Should that have been like, hey, we need to just shut down this fight?
Yeah. If a fighter's saying he's losing his eyesight, that's it.
Everything else,
Especially
seems
when
one
it
of
comes
those-
to eyes. Like, that's just something you want to have the rest of your life. You don't want to mess
Yeah.
around with that.
Everything else seems like one of those where, like, we've been through this. We've seen people crawling out of saunas, and we push people to their limits.
They had the mattress there. That was clearly a part of the process, right? The mattress
But the
was there
eyesight
and ready,
thing,
but
like, that's...
yes.
Oof.
Can I say something
Yeah.
really quick before we get any deeper to this? I tweeted something out yesterday, which it got a little bit of traction, but in case it didn't, it's something that I felt needs to be said about this topic is the amount of infighting that whenever light is shed on the darker sides of weight cutting that happens between media, fighters, and fans is pretty insane. And it blows me away because people are so quick to dig their heels. They're so quick to discredit opinions when really we should be embracing the fact that we need to be having these conversations for the sake of our sport, okay? But it's tough. It's tough though. It's tough. Like so I agree with Goes. Like I've seen. Obviously, I have experience in it. Whether I've seen it through friends and teammates, and I have very limited experience with myself. But I've been through some myself as well, and nothing like that. Thankfully, nothing like that. But again, like Goes said, it's sadly. I don't think you sound like a dick at all, Goes. It's more common than it realized. And yes, I think.
That he sounds like a dick?
No, I think the problem that the fighters are going to always go, are always going to push through. Just like we've had this conversation with, stopping in between fight. The fighters are always going to push through things. You guys said he had a great mindset, but yes, when he gets to something like eyesight, I don't think you need to be a doctor or a fighter to be like, oh, that's a bad sign.
I'm telling you, man. Yeah, exactly. So the end result was that he missed weight. The video cuts off. It's available there on the front page of MMA Junkie. They said out of a courtesy to the team, we're shutting things off, but it got worse. And they allude to the family emergency that Darren Till had, which he had to remove himself from everything he was doing. And then we fast forward to the fight, and the guy went out there and fought for 25 minutes. It wasn't the greatest fight I've ever seen, but he got the job done. So his recovery was pretty amazing from that. But yeah, what do we do about this?
Well, that'll probably lead us to our daily debate eventually, because you have to assign blame to somebody, right? As far as doing something, and I'm going to sound like such a negative Nancy on today's show, but really, I feel like no matter what you do, whatever stipulations, rules you bring in, fighters are just going to always push limits. So I really don't have an answer for you.
Okay, what is going on? We didn't discover it the other day?
We did, but
I haven't touched anything here since.
What is it you flick that makes it stop?
I've been flicking the modem because that's what it was last time, but I didn't touch the modem before today since just then, just to try to stop it.
You click a button or you move it?
No, I just jiggle it. That's what Ghost figured out the last time.
It's hard to talk.
I know, but this isn't good radio.
All right.
Talk.
Well, I know that noise isn't good radio. All right. As far as Till, we do have a daily debate to discuss, and I want to save, I guess, a little bit of what I want to say about that, but the promotion's got to be aware of everything that's going on. Maybe not every particular case. Maybe it could be the first time they see it, but they got to hear about it. When Burt Watson was on our show, he used to be the site coordinator for the UFC up until about 3 years ago. He was pretty hands-on. He checked in with fighters quite often. Maybe it was easier here when you're within. Well, no, everywhere they're in the confines of a hotel. Sometimes they spread out through these Airbnbs and shit like that. But he seemed pretty hands-on as far as knowing every single thing of what was going on. And that's alarming to me, because if I feel that way as a fan and as a media member, shouldn't the promotion feel that way about their employees or independent contractors? Or, I mean, Dana White has gone so far as to say, and I truly believe him, there's guys that he truly loves and cares about, like Chuck Liddell, for example. Like, whether it was a boss fighter role, you know, they started off as a manager fighter, but there's certain people that you can tell he really cares about to that level. And there's others where it's a transaction. Hey, I heard you're good. Come over here and fight for me, and I'll pay you well, and we'll know each other for 5-10 years, and then I'll probably never see you again when you go back to fill in the blank country. But that there has to be something from that end, in my opinion, because the commissions aren't aware of what's happening. The UFC has to be. They have a good team that assembles themselves on fight week, where when you check in, you have to see a lot of people along the way. And a lot of people have sharp eyes and can tell, because they've seen you quite a few times. They've seen other people that have your body type, or just know what you're going through. They can capture your mood, whatever. So the commission, they can create rules like more not more websites, but more weight classes, which they have done. But well, it's the promotion has to enforce them. But they've created them. There is a 165 and 175 and a 95 and a 235 or 225, sorry. But now it's up to the promotions to enforce them. So, I mean, I don't know. I invite people to call in and see what they think. 866-522-2846. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that point up, because that's the point I was going to make, is this particular one hurts them a little bit more, because anytime it happens around the 155 class or the 170 class, people can just say, well, wouldn't bringing 165 in maybe limit some of these, right? So that's one where I think you could go, come on, UFC. You know, what are you waiting for? We all have the feeling that you're going to do it eventually anyway. Just
right.
do it now.
Right. Why the fuck do we have a women's 45 division with one fighter and a bunch of 35ers that we send up for that one fighter? And I have nothing against that fighter, because she is great. And that's just the way it is. And I know they have a season coming up, but I don't know. I think we have plenty of 65ers and 75ers. Plenty of middleweights, welterweights, and lightweights that could leave their actual weight class and start to fill in these other ones. And you're seeing it right now with flyweight, women's flyweight. You're seeing 15ers go up and 35ers go down. Are the other classes suffering? Yes, a little bit. But they're not as deep as the male. The women fight weight classes are like 30, 40 deep. The men, like welterweight and lightweight, are about 100 each. Middleweight and featherweight are about 85 each. So trust me, there are bodies there. You know what I mean? They're the ones that could pull it off. But the UFC is actually pulling it off with it right now with flyweight. But if they're still concerned about some of these other weight classes, and you love promoting belts, that's why we have so many of these interim belts. Here's your chance to have another belt. You're adding 2, but subtracting 1.
Yep.
So you're really only adding 1. I'm not advocating 95 right now or 225, but let's start with that one.
Okay.
You have Kevin Lee complaining. You know, he went through something. I think he tweeted the other day. He goes, "Are somebody waiting for me to die?" He goes, "Let's bring 65 already." Mm-hmm. Khabib, that's 2 big names. Khabib went through something pretty bad where I know he would benefit from 65. So it has to happen, and it will lead into our daily debate at some point on today's show. Our daily debate, we try and knock it out within 2 or 3 minutes, but I knew it was going to be something that we may sink our teeth into and take a little bit more time. So I think we got some of it out of us right now. But that's the big thing. Darren Till and the video that was produced leading into his weigh-in, very alarming. Check it out. We're going to take a break right now. Right now is a good time to check it out on the front page of MMA Junkie. Give us your thoughts. And, of course, you can always share your thoughts on our show, 866-522-2846. Walt Harris will be joining us soon. When fighters do our show the day of their fight, they're 59-14. He wants to soak in some of that junkie karma. Stay close. We'll be right back.
They pat down TSA agents because they don't know where those people have been, and because they can. They are Gorgeous George and Goes, and this is MMA Junkie Radio.
Turn it up, Danny. You got a soft spot.
Samsung not too long ago too.
They were. I've seen them in San Diego about 2 years ago. Actually, it was for Juliet's birthday. Shit, it may have been. No, it wasn't the last birthday. It was the one before.
Well, speaking of birthdays, that young gentleman over there is gonna have a birthday soon. And guess how old? I'm not gonna say who we're pointing at. Guess how old he's gonna be?
The gentleman over there, or this gentleman?
That gentleman.
I already know.
Oh, you do?
I could come within a year or two. Oh, I thought you said we're not gonna say it.
Well, I'm not gonna say who we're pointing at. It could be that guy over
But
there.
I already know. Oh, I see. Okay. That gentleman.
I don't care. Do you care?
I think he's
No, he doesn't care.
49,
40 pew pew.
50.
Yeah.
50.
You believe that?
That's the
You would've told
youngest
me he's
looking.
turning 30 or
That's
something.
the youngest looking 50-year-old I've ever met in my life. I'm jealous. I mean, he must lead a stress-free life. He must have the cleanest diet ever. Get laid a lot. Have a ton of money. Yeah, he's like, yeah, fuck yeah, I got money. Because I mean, I think probably 10 hours sleep a night. 7.
7.
Okay, yeah.
It's all gonna go downhill soon now. This particular breed of gentleman will go from looking like Short Round from Indiana Jones to the guy who sold the Gremlin overnight.
Like,
there is no
like
in
Jet Li.
between.
Did you see Jet Li?
Yeah, he's sick though, right? But he says he's
Yeah.
getting better now.
That's scary.
That was a
he
picture
looks
of Jet Li
way
that popped
different.
up. I was like, whoa, that can't be him. All right, let me get this readout because I segued into I'll Tumble For You by Culture Club.
Yeah.
But basically, I want to inform you all because this is coming to an end here. I can't say this too much longer. U2 is playing a private show for SiriusXM subscribers at Harlem's world-famous Apollo Theater, and we have your chance to be there. One grand prize winner will receive a trip for 2 to New York and tickets to this very special show at the Apollo on June 11th. For official rules and to enter, go to SiriusXM.com/U2. Do that before June 4th. Today is June 1st. No additional purchase is necessary to enter or to win. All right, in a few minutes, we'll be joined by Walt Harris. Look, we're not going to cover much. His fight's tonight. That's it, you know. But fighters who do the show on the day of their fight, which, remember, UFC Fight Night 131 is tonight. They're 59-14. I'll save you the math. That's 80.8%. We could round up and just start calling it 81 at this point, but it's 8.8. 80.8. If it was 60 or 50, I'd say, it's a flip of the coin. You want to do the show or not. But I really encourage fighters, if you're fighting during the week, you should do this show. It's not going to be a 20-minute interview or a 15-minute interview. We're just going to goof off and laugh and see what his state of mind is and ask him a question or two. And if he hits on something that maybe we need to follow up on, great. But we need to just get the guy in and get him out, wish him good luck, and that's it, you know. I'll give you the history of this a little bit. Sometimes we do reach out to the fighters and say, you know. And other times they've reached out to us. Other times their managers have reached out to us. We've actually been asked to come in on a Saturday and do it. If we did that, we'd work every Saturday because there's fight cards every Saturday, it seems like. But we only did it once, right, guys? We only came in on a Saturday one time.
It was a WEC event.
Was it?
Yeah.
I thought it was a UFC. I don't know.
Was it? Well, it was a WEC fighter, and he transitioned over, I guess. But
yeah, and he wanted us to do the show because he had actually capitalized a few times. This has been going on for such a long time. I bet you some of the fighters may not even remember it. But I'll tell you the one I enjoyed the most. It's no disrespect to anybody, but I'll share the story. If I get dealt with, I get dealt with. We asked, Cowboy Cerrone was one of the first, all right, when he was in the WEC. And he did it. I think it was him and Jamie Varner started us off 2-0. We actually went to 10-0 and 12-0, and I think we experienced our first loss. So Cerrone did it like 3 times after that. And when he moved over to the UFC, he just started to reach a new level of superstardom. And he was tougher to get through, and he had a good friend named Dave Schaller, who was the UFC's PR director. He's now moved on to the 76ers. He's the guy that tried to break up John Jones and Daniel Cormier. And I couldn't get through to the Cowboys, so I asked Schaller, and Schaller says, I could tell Schaller didn't even ask Cowboy. He says, we politely decline. I think I asked him the day before. Hey, you want to continue this thing with the Junkie Radio reverse curse karma, blah, blah, blah. He goes, we politely decline. That was, unless Cowboy was sitting there next to him and he asked him and he said no, then to me it just seemed like, he just blew it off, right? And so I was like, all right. And I thought, well, we have a decent relationship with RDA at the time through Ed Soares, so really Derek the translator is who I knew better. So I asked Derek, and he goes, fuck yeah, he wants to do it. RDA comes on the show. He does the show. They fight the first time, right? It wasn't the world title fight.
No.
Yeah. They fight, and Goz and I were sitting there, and the fight went to a decision, and I told Goz, this is a close one. I go, if Junkie Karma prevails, we've just taken this thing to a new level. And sure enough, Buffer or somebody says, Judge 1 says it for Cowboy, Judge 2 says it for RDA, and Judge 3 says it for... And Goz and I are like almost falling out of our chairs just waiting to hear what he has to say. We look like Craig and Smokey from Friday. And sure enough, he says, the winner, Rafael dos Anjos. And we cheered like there was no tomorrow.
I feel like there was another one like that,
even though we didn't have a bet on the fight, even though we didn't care who won. I don't even think we were doing staff picks at the time. It was just, we just wanted to pad the Junkie Karma record. It's nothing against Cowboy. It was nothing against Schaller. It's just the way it worked. And the other side was so receptive to it. And Derek shoots me a text. He goes, fucking amazing. Junkie Karma or something like that. So it was really, really cool. All right, so now the one that's going to receive Junkie Karma today is Walt Harris, who we've gotten to know on the show as well. He's been in our studio. He will be fighting tonight in Utica, New York. That's right. They're in Utica. And the fight card, just so you know, it starts at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fight Pass, and then it moves over to FS1 where they'll stay throughout the show. Walt will be the featured bout. That's one before co-main event, and then the main event. And the main card starts at 10 Eastern. He fights Daniel Speets. He joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. What's up, Walt? How you doing?
What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
Good, my man. You ready to do this thing tonight?
Yeah, man. I'm ready to go.
If they said, hey, you want to fight in 30 minutes, would you do it? Or because a lot of fighters just want to get it over with. Or are you calm and ready to just tackle this in a few hours?
Whenever, man. I'm like, you know, hey, they say go, I go, man. I'm a contract killer, so whenever they give me the green light, I'm coming.
Did you happen to hear that story that I was telling there right before we brought you on?
Yeah, man, I did. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's one of the ways this thing started to pick up some traction. And you know, the UFC, they often fight on Saturdays, so we don't do that too often with the UFC fighters. But back in the day, WEC did a lot of Wednesdays and sometimes, you know, other days of the week. And of course, we've been doing this show for, you know, almost 11 years. That's why we've compiled the 59-14 record. But when I looked at it, I go, man, we haven't caught up with Walt. But rather than get him on Tuesday, I think Friday sounds better. But my question to you is, are you doing this because it's fun, or do you have any superstitions yourself as far as the fight game at all?
No, I'm not very superstitious at all, man. I just I like your guys' show, so you know, and anytime I get a chance to come on, I'm gonna take it. So yeah, man, I just, you know, I keep my mind clear and I don't focus on superstitions too much.
Okay. What's the final meal gonna be before you walk into that octagon? Right now over there it's 1:30 p.m. You probably will eat one more time right before you fight at approximately, if I had to guess, you'll be fighting around midnight?
I don't know, man. I mean, I don't leave to go to the arena till 8:45, so there's no telling, man. I mean, I probably won't be on till about 9:30, 10, maybe. Maybe later.
Are you having a steak, or what's that last meal?
I'm just gonna have some pasta, man. My nutritionist, we're perfecting athletes. They're here, so they made me some pasta. I'm gonna eat a lot of fruit here up until that time, but I'll probably have a bowl of pasta right before I go to the arena.
Do you chill by yourself, or do you have a good group around you?
I got my people around me, man. I like to have my people around me getting ready to go in the battle because, you know, it just makes me feel more comfortable. Being by myself, I go crazy. So I you know, kind of keep it light.
Do you prefer they talk about the fight, or do you want to talk about anything but the fight?
Yeah, I don't really talk about the fight too much going into it. like we should be watching. We're all making fun of J.R. Smith still from last night. So, I was just perusing the internet, laughing at memes, and we're just acting silly, cutting up, hanging out, keeping it loose, man. Not focusing too much on the fight right at this moment. The closer it gets, the more I lock in and focus on what I got to do. But this far out, I'm just kind of relaxing and hydrating right now.
For those that don't know, last night Cleveland and the Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors played Game 1 of the finals. It was 107-107, and one of the Cavaliers, his last name is Hill, I think it's George Hill actually, misses a free throw, but the Cavaliers got the rebound. And J.R. Smith, rather than just put it back up, even though Durant is 6'11", 7 feet, a little floater or anything, because there was about 4 seconds left, right? He kind of runs with the ball almost like he was waiting for them to foul him because he thought they had the lead. LeBron points out to him that you need to do something. He throws a pass, and one of his guys throws a desperation. So it's funny that everyone is clowning J.R. Smith because he made an error, right? And he's going to take a lot of heat. But really, if Hill just makes the free throw, that never happens to J.R. Smith. You know what I mean? So Hill's kind of like, whew, like, because J.R. Smith's the one that'll be remembered.
Yeah, J.R. But the thing about it, J.R.'s made that mistake multiple times too. So like, they're gonna kill him. Like, the media's already destroyed him, and internet is undefeated to this day. So it's been bad for him. I feel terrible for him, honestly.
Don't you think he should have just said, I screwed up? He's trying to say that he knew it was tight.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he's been trying to say that this morning, and it's just getting worse and worse.
Yeah,
that's his mistake. Coach Lue came out and tried to defend him in a way, and he just contradicted everything JR said. So if JR would have just owned it and said, I made a mistake, blah, 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 I don't think it would have been as bad. But saying you knew it was tired, that makes you look even stupider. And then me being a basketball player my whole life, that is like an unforgivable sin. Like, you're on the floor in the clutch to make the right play. You know what I'm saying? And he blew it. So, I don't know. Even if he would have just taken the shot and missed it, it would have been a lot better for him than what he did.
I think back to Steve Harvey when he announced the wrong winner, and he kind of owned it.
Yeah.
And the fact that he owned it, he kind of like, he can take the joke. I mean, he is a comedian, but he can take the joke, and it's just kind of went away. But you're right, Goes and Walt. When you kind of try to put up that barrier, like, no, I'm the guy. I know what I'm doing. Stop clowning. It's gonna get fucking worse.
Yeah. I don't know why he chose that route.
Yeah.
Hey, Walt, can I ask you what position in basketball you play? Actually, can I take a guess before you tell us? just curious, which position?
I played everything but the point guard.
Oh, okay. I was going to say maybe like a small forward, a utility player position, because I'm like, if looking at the way you move, it looks like a guy who can probably do everything on the court. Your fighting skills are developing. Well-rounded there. I bet you he's a utility player. He's probably like a small forward or something.
I mean, that's what I was. I would, if I had to, and I hate this, I'm wrong to say I hate him. I strongly dislike this player, but if I had to say my game was similar to this guy, it'd be Draymond Green. Like, I was like a Draymond Green type of player. Like, I was a defender. I played all the defense. I did the rebounding. I knocked down the open shot when I needed to. You know what I'm saying? We had other stars on the team, and so I kind of was the glue guy. I made the team go. I did all the dirty work. So I guess you could say I was great.
I was like players that kind of made things work and could do everything. They didn't maybe get a lot of the press or the accolades, but from a team perspective, invaluable.
Pippen's legit, Dan, but the problem is you try and compare him to Jordan. That's where it just doesn't work for me,
Exactly.
I'd say he's better. I said you'd be surprised if you lined up some stats. We're talking about statistics, and he does got some scoreboard and some stats.
I've stood next to Walt before.
Pip's a legend.
All I can think of is his legs. Just if he got that first step on you, I think that's where you kind of go, damn. No, Walt.
Oh, Walt? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I feel like he could probably cover a lot of ground.
Pippen got the passing lanes because of his nose made it.
My dad used to say Pippen's face looks like it's being cut out of a palm tree or something like that. And I was like, what? But here's the funny thing was yesterday Jimmy Kimmel was making NBA players read mean tweets. And Pippen read something that alluded to his face. He just laughed it off or whatever. I was like, who wrote that, my dad?
He's got Sideshow Bob face. Right?
A little bit.
Real thin.
Yeah. Well, listen, Walt. we always wish you the best of luck. I know you've been training your ass off. So go out there and just have fun. You know, don't forget to have fun. Get the job done, but have fun in the process. Enjoy it. You can only make 20 to 30 of these walks, you know, down that aisle at this high level. So I always try and tell the fighters, don't forget about that. Sniff the roses. Have a good time. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's what I try to do every fight. I try to take it all in. You know, it's a blessing to be in the UFC at this point still. You know, so I'm just taking it day by day and enjoying the moment, working hard and trying to stay focused, man.
Yeah, I hear you. Hey, listen, hopefully we took your mind off the fight for 5-10 minutes. We really appreciate your time here on the show. Good luck tonight, all right, bro?
Bro, I appreciate y'all for having me on.
Okay, take care. We'll see you.
Later.
That is Walt Harris soaking up Junkie Karma. He fights tonight against Daniel Spitz at UFC Fight Night 131 in Utica, New York. Tonight. Remember, tonight. I'll say it a lot on today's show. Today's Friday, June 1st. And the fights start on the UFC Fight Pass. There's 3 of them there. That start at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. That's 3:30 Pacific. Jared Brooks versus Jose Shorty Torres. We've talked to Torres many times as he's been on the regional circuit like Titan. So good for him. By the way, I think he's the favorite too. And Jared Brooks is no joke. I think he's only got the 1 loss. Yeah. Johnny Eduardo versus Nathaniel Wood. Jody Escobar versus Jessica Aguilar. At one point, Aguilar was called the #1 strawweight in the world. Things haven't worked out as well as she wanted to in the UFC, but still had a nice career. And then they moved over to the prelims. Desmond Green versus Gleason Tabao. Bilal Muhammad versus Chance Rincontri. Nick Lentz versus David Tamer. Sijara Eubanks versus Lauren Murphy. Now, the main card. Remember, when it comes to fight nights, it's a 6-bout main card. So that's why you're going to hear 12 fighters' names. John Vellante versus Sam Alvey. This is 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific when the main card starts. Remember, the last 10 fights are all on Fox Sports 1, but they just separate the 2 between prelims and main card. Alvey versus Vellante. Julio Arce versus Daniel Tamer. Ben Saunders versus Jake Ellenberg. You know who calls him that goes?
Who?
Hector Lombard.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I was listening to the MMA Roasted one time, and Jake used to co-host a lot over there. And Jake goes, "Hey, Hector, let me ask you a question." And he goes, "Hey, who's that? Jake Ellenberg." "Yeah, I like you, man. I like you." And they got along real good.
Jake's a real likable guy, huh? I don't know anybody who doesn't like him.
You can't possibly hate him. He really is a nice guy. Walt Harris versus Daniel Spitz. Gregor Gillespie versus Vince Pichel. And Jimmy Rivera versus Marlon Moraes. That's a fun night right there. You can't go wrong with that. All right, Dan, let's use this time here to plug all the hard work you've done throughout the day. As I was talking about some of these fights, which one do you really like tonight? Or 1 or 2 where you're like, man, I really like this matchup for so-and-so. And you can go out Fight Pass on us if you want, whatever. If you've seen something that's glaring, you know me, man. I'll run up to that counter and put a bet right now.
Well, to be honest, I don't know about players. I'll let you know my players, which on the main card, I'm sure the main card will get a lot of love. You know, they're really good. We're talking about Jared Brooks and Torres. As far as fight to watch, that one's got heat on it. You know, from media, people that are on the ground, or tweets that I'm reading, and the interviews that I've seen from both guys, there's been heat since even before they got paired up, because Shorty Torres, not only the favorite for a UFC debutante, but fighting on 10 days notice, whereas Jared Brooks, no slouch, is in camp. But Brooks is coming off a loss to Davison Figueiredo. But Davison Figueiredo,
he's good.
He's a guy that I can see. He could do the John Moraga thing, the Demetrius Johnson, but finish the job. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's got that spooky power. At 125, he's a good fighter around, right? And so I picked Figueiredo to beat Brooks. But that doesn't mean Brooks is a slouch. Brooks lost, that doesn't mean he's a slouch. He's really tough. And he's one of those young kids where you hear the commentary saying the young kids, they get better every time. I mean, I'm sure you see it at your sittings in Extreme Couture. You see a lot of these young kids in the mat that no one knows about. You're probably seeing them do work. These kids, they come out of nowhere. And Jared Brooks is one of those kids. So I mean, I'm picking Shorty Torres, but the line came down. The line for him got as high as I think like 271 to 275.
For Torres?
Which is insane. Now again,
wow.
This is a normal short notice debutante. Shorty Torres has been offered and taken short notice fights before, turned down them. Wasn't the right look, wanted to get more experience. I mean, he's been in talks to the UFC before. So the fact that he took this fight means he must feel pretty confident. wasn't like this is a desperate guy. This is a guy that's been getting multiple amateur titles, multiple professional titles. Not just training out of Chicago at big gyms, but been training for the past year or two. TJ Dillashaw in California. Recently, before this fight, last month, American top team in Florida. This guy is doing the rounds. So this isn't your normal guy that just picked up the phone, got off the couch.
Right.
So that's a fight up.
How about Wood and Eduardo?
Ooh, that's a fun one.
Now, I'll quote the odds first. Wood's minus 265, Eduardo's plus 205.
I got an Eduardo on my DraftKings for my fantasy article that's up now, just for our live listeners, but the official pick so he's trained a lot of American top team too, because him and Brad, it's kind of Brad Pickett, Superman, people that don't know. And if you watch him, he reminds me of a mix of young Brad Pickett to another name that kind of goes back to like Mark Hammond. He's an all-action striker, right? And he's facing Johnny Eduardo. Johnny Eduardo, you might see him, pump sporadically on Brazilian cards, but this guy's the Muay Thai striking coach built me out. So he's legit. He's been fighting since 1996, ladies and gentlemen. This is no old bar weight. So I mean, he's a 37-year-old bantamweight, not just a 37-year-old bantamweight. You know, he's been fighting since 1996, so that kind of explains why the line's so wide. The thing is, Nathaniel Wood, like Brad Pickett, like those guys that go in there and scrap your picture in your feet, they take damage. So Johnny Eduardo's going to be really live. Last thing to go when you're older is your power, and regardless of who wins, that's going to be a really fun one.
All right, how about Jody Escobar and Jag?
One of the few dog picks, man. One of the few dog picks. I'm with you guys where I have Moraes in the main event. That's the other dog pick, but Jody Escobar was my dog pick. Apparently I'm not alone because I don't know what it says in your sheet there, George.
So it's 115, 115. It kind of evened out.
Yeah, that's where I saw it trending this week. Apparently I wasn't the only one who thought so. Money started coming in on Escobar because there's not a lot of dogs to pick from. If you look at those odds there, I'm sure you're going to see there's nothing. There's not a lot of pickups. I bet you we can count the pickups on one hand right now. Maybe if we're generous, I bet you there's my memory. The rest, we're going to have a lot of inflated odds. It's going to be a lot of parlay players. So like Showtime, you had to see, I'm sure his ears are twitching right now. Parlay players is going to be a big parlay play. Overs and unders are nothing to look for. This is going to be really enticing, but you know, Walt Harris, Desmond Green, or some guys I listed in my article for guys that you know would be in the parlay range. Bilal Muhammad.
But hold on a second. But you like Escobar here?
Escobar here's the pick. Yeah, I think she's going to outwork Jessica Aguilar. I think Jessica Aguilar, you know, she had it back in the, you guys said she was fighting big people from EG, these legends, right?
Yeah.
But you know, time passed, and I haven't seen the evolution that I'd like to see from Jessica Aguilar.
Okay.
Right? She's only had 2 fights in what, 4 years?
Yeah.
4 years or something like that.
I know she had a bad knee injury, but I think technically, especially on the ground, she's very savvy, very tough. But what I noticed that the other girls were able to exploit was she's not as athletic as the other ones. Aguilar.
Yeah, at the higher level.
Yeah.
And we've seen that kind of athleticism, like everything in those divisions. They're a little slower, short, but they are catching up, right? And that's the thing. And Escobar, she's lost a lot, but if you look at who she's lost to, it's been a really tough competition. And she's a girl that's fighting kind of out of her weight class. She's a fiver. You know, she moved up, and now she seems sad. Like she doesn't seem too undersized. She's filled out. She takes care of her body. She's a out there. Keith Jardine, and Jackson Cruz, she's training with good people, taking care of herself, and she can rock. She can stick and move. She's got that really stout frame. It's going to make it hard for the takedown, which is going to use to perfectly. That's kind of the make or break how high cars will do.
Right.
She's in a position
Right. Okay. Okay. Let's take a break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be back, and we'll look at some more fights that take place on tonight's card, UFC Fight Night 131, Rivera versus Moraes. All right, we're back. Kind of working on some stuff here behind the scenes. We ask that you bear with us. Having fun here, though, diving into some of these fights. Sometimes we don't get around to it because we have a hectic schedule. There's just a bunch of bullshit going on, but that's what Dan does, man. He obsesses over these fights. He watches a lot of film and does the breakdowns for us. To check him out on the front page of MMA Junkie. Usually his schedule is one where the main event is released on Tuesday, co-main on Wednesday, prelims Thursday, and then you got your fantasy, DraftKings, and parlay stuff on Friday, the betting stuff on Friday. And each one of those stories references and has links to the previous stories, so check it out. Of course, we also have the staff picks that feature all the writers and contributors and videographers and radio hosts, and that's there before every event. Most Bellators as well. Not all, but you know, a lot of their tent poles or just featured cards. We do that as well. Dan right now is leading the pack, so everybody's listening. All right, Dan, how about Gleison Tibau against Desmond Green? Tibau's minus 245, Green's plus 315. Green's only loss, I think, is Harrison, right?
Yeah. Green, he's only
Harrison.
he outside of the UFC, but he's actually 1-2 in the UFC. He lost to Pacheris. Granted, Pacheris missed weight. That was the last time out.
That's right.
And then he beat Josh Emmett, which was really impressive. And I believe his fight before that, it's not coming to mind, but it was a short notice one. But he's never been stopped. He's really durable. He's fought 170, 145, and 155, and he's a southpaw and a wrestler. And if you look at who Gleison Tibau's fought, he's fought guys who are, or guys who he's not fought, who he's had trouble with. He's had trouble with wrestlers and southpaws. He's a contestable 3-5 against UFC southpaws. Gleison Tibau is, you know, in other words, it could have been, you know, probably 2-6. Depending on how you want to look at it, but yeah, he's had trouble with those fights. He's fought once in the last 3 years. He didn't look good, and he's a guy that's been around kind of forever too. And you got to wonder, when's the bottom going to kind of drop out? And is Desmond Green just kind of a better version, a better grinder, a better wrestler? And his striking's got much better working under Henry Hooft. So that's why a lot of money came in on Desmond Green. He was already a considerable favorite. I want to say the odds makers open at about 2.5 to 1, George.
I see.
But he's grown. What are you seeing? About 360 right now?
Minus 315, yeah.
Okay, okay. He actually went down a little bit. He was a little higher this morning, but that's why I mentioned him in the article for possible parlay fodder for you parlay players out there.
Okay, but Tibau, don't play him.
That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. You know, with the layoff and a lot of things
don't
have
play
changed
Aguilar
since he's been back.
When you pick the other one, the other side is just one of those you don't want to touch, right? You don't mess with.
I do have a fights to avoid section, and I did put Aguilar Escobar on there. One, you're not getting the value that you were. Not that you were getting a lot of high value on Escobar anyways. You're not getting that nice plus number that I know me and you like to look for, George, as dog players. But so you're not getting that, and it's kind of a close fight. Another fight I'd have on there would be Lauren Murphy, Sijara Eubanks. That's another one. It's kind of a wait and see.
I think Sarge takes this, right?
I think too. Something? I think so too. But Lauren Murphy, you know, she's not just that's the proverbial tough veteran, but you look at her last fight even against Barb Honchak. She was in traditional spots that have always kind of troubled Lauren, but you know, this is about her ex-camp now that she's been doing from she's one of those at Cannoneer. She came down from Alaska and went full-time Arizona MMA lab with John Crouch, who very respectable coach guy. I respect a lot as far as watching his work he does, and I think that's paying off and rubbing off on Murphy. So it makes it a little more competitive, and I think the line is a little too wide now. If Sarge, there's a nice lower number, even if she was still a favorite, but a nice lower number buyer, then maybe I would consider maybe playing it if you really felt good about Sarge. But it's how close is the matchup and what's the price like, and those two things can be different things, and it can vary, you know.
So I was asking you that question about Tibau and Escobar because with Torres, that's your pick, but you had put it out there that Jared Brooks is no slouch, and that's a very winnable fight. Whereas the other ones just don't have as good of a chance to win their fight.
100%. Gotcha. Yeah.
All right, let's take. We're gonna go to the end of the break here, and yeah, we're not gonna have time to do another one. We'll do some more when we come back. Tyron Woodley will be our guest in the second hour, but we'll have some time before we get to him. The Vegas Golden Knights aren't just the talk of the NHL and the sports world. They're the talk of the town in Las Vegas. Follow the money while you follow this expansion team's quest for the Stanley Cup on the only channel broadcasting live from a Las Vegas sportsbook. The Vegas Stats and Information Network odds are you'll like what you hear on SiriusXM Channel 204. All right, we'll be back in about 3 minutes. It's MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll continue breaking down UFC Fight Night 131, which takes place tonight. Here we go. It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. On YouTube, I want to get a shout out to Valeria Starkshield, Esteban Razo, who's talking about the huevos and chorizo that he had earlier today.
Damn, that sounds good.
It did, man, yeah. Usmano Man. Yeah, there's a couple shout outs there on the YouTube chat. Victor with a K. And Joey Marguerite He's promoting Jimmy Rivera. That's who he's got tonight. He says Boricua Pride. So we got a Puerto Rican in the house. Dan from Morgan promoting M1 Challenge 93. If it says he's watching it right now. I guess it's going down right now. And Ronald Reagan. He's a big fan of titties.
Makes sense.
Yeah. JD from the IE as well. Chilling. I'm almost done here.
Human Moron?
Kevin O'Brien. Fix your sound. We did. Don Piccolo. Sorry. Kevin O'Brien. Yeah. We got the audio thing. Thanks, everybody. Pooh Man's in there as well. Yeah. I did not see the Human Moron, though, unfortunately. All right, let's do the Daily Debate brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio team. The question for today is, who is most to blame for MMA's current weight-cutting problems? The athletic commissions, the corners, trainers, and coaches, the fighters, or the promoters? I want to ask it one more time. Who is most to blame for the MMA's current weight-cutting problems? Option 1, athletic commissions. Option 2, corners, trainers, and coaches. So they all fall under, we'll call it B. Fighters would be C. Promoters would be D. What do you think, Dan Tom?
Boy, first of all, I'm glad we're having this conversation. It's hard to put a blame on anybody because I think it's important before we start slinging mud that this is a really important topic to discuss, first of all. But second of all, I just want to incorporate 2 tweets from 2 former UFC fighters that I felt kind of encapsulated my opinions pretty well.
All right.
Steve Montgomery at the Creepy Weasel, former UFC welterweight, I believe, who fights at a higher weight class now, says, duh, fighters who are choosing to cut weight, no one is forcing them to. I used to do horrendous weight cuts, and why did I do that? Because I chose to, not because some athletic commission put a gun to my head. Want to end weight cutting? Make them step in the cage, weigh in before they step into the cage. I agree with Steve in the sense of fighter accountability is always first and foremost. You really can't deny that. I don't know about the weigh-ins the same day, but it's hard to deny the fighter accountability part of his answer. Whereas King of Rock and Rumble, Elvis Inasak, another UFC veteran, I kind of side more on his answer, guys. Fighters and coaches will always look for the greatest advantage to secure victory. It's up to the commissions to create the rules that provide safety, level playing field, hydration tests before the weigh-ins, plus pre-cage walk weigh-in. No more than a 10% weight cut. You can argue kind of details there, but essentially he's saying the athletic commission. I will vote athletic commission with King of Rock and Rumble there.
I don't like same-day weigh-ins. I'll tell you that right now.
Me too.
I think you're asking for a show to just blow up in front of your eyes.
And the head trauma aspect of it. You know, people do that in wrestling and jiu-jitsu, and that's fine for those. I've done that myself, but there's not as much. There is head trauma in those, don't get me wrong, but not obvious head trauma like we have in MMA.
Right. And fighters, if they're going to push it on a Friday, they're going to do it on a Thursday, they're going to do it on a Saturday. Goes. Oh, and imagine if someone doesn't make in. Just take Till and Thompson. Imagine the pressure of same-day weigh-in. He's over by 3.5. Well, now the pressure's on Thompson to save the event. It's that night. People are already partying in tailgating or whatever. So imagine saying no to that. I mean, the promotion's not going to be too happy. And then if he takes it, hey, what'd you take that for? He had a clear advantage. You know what I mean? No, we need about a day or two. I'm a proponent of 2-day weigh-ins, 48 hours in advance. But how about this question goes? Who's most to blame?
The correct answer is it's on all of them. But if you have to pick one, I'm going to go with the fighter. I feel like no matter what the rule set is, whatever the regulations are, fighters will always find ways to cut corners and take advantage of the situation. You can, as a commission, try and limit that a little bit. Everybody can have a role in this, but at the end of the day, it's the fighter that's putting himself in that situation.
True. Yeah. I'm going to go with the promoter, actually, because the fighters are grown-ass men and women, and they should be making sound decisions like we all do. But they're fighters for a reason. They are programmed differently, and they are always going to push the limits because once you get your ass kicked in practice, behind the curtains, doors closed, and you know how strong somebody feels like, you do not want to take that into fight night, and that's why you always try and be the bigger person, the bigger, stronger person, if possible. I think it's on the promoters. Because I think the commissions have already started to adapt and create new divisions. And I think the fighters are willing to start moving around. They're starting to listen a little bit more. And now it's up to the promoters. And I'm looking at the UFC, most specifically. Adopt 65, adopt 75, adopt 95. It may not benefit you now, but trust me, this sport isn't going anywhere. And when we get to about 100 years old or 80 years old that the sport is, not me, you'll look back and go, wow, we didn't wait an extra 5-10 years. We created them, and people started filtering into those divisions. The same way you did a 25 division when there wasn't 25ers available, guess what? 35ers dropped and 15ers went up with the females. The same way you're doing a featherweight division that has what? How many featherweights are there? 4? They did it for them. You can do it for the divisions that matter at this time, and that's 65 and 75 because you have plenty of fighters that can make it in those divisions. So that's who I go for. All right. That's the Daily Debate brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio team. If you're curious about how the votes came in from Junkie Nation, 1,123 came in. 46% agreed with Goes, the fighters. 28% athletic commissions. Who'd you go with, Dan?
Athletic commissions.
All right, you came in number 2. Promoters, 15%. That was my vote. And 11% go to the coaches, trainers, and cornermen. There you have it. All right, let's continue here with the show. Having a fun time here breaking down some fights using the expertise of our fight analyst, Dan Tom. Remember, you can call in, too, if you want to give an opinion on any of these subjects or maybe toss your parlay for tonight. UFC 131 taking place tonight in Utica, New York. Rivera versus Moraes. That will impact the bantamweight division. Chance Rincontre versus Bilal Muhammad. Muhammad's minus 450. Rincontre plus 325. Does Rincontre have a chance?
I think he's got more of a chance than even maybe his name hints that he does, actually. Yeah. The number, I can see why it's strong. I'm high on Bilal Muhammad. You know, he's shown that he can come in short notice, UFC debut on Ramadan against a guy like Alan Jouban and still deliver and make fans even in a loss. I mean, that's how good this guy is. I hate saying the term well-rounded. It feels like a cop-out, but he really is that well-rounded. Bilal can transition on the ground. You know, he can float positions. He can do takedowns in the open against the cage, but his pressure striking is good. Thing is, this Chance guy, though, he's a really tall welterweight. He's like a Carlos Condit, like a 6'2" frame guy. He's a southpaw. He actually has most of his wins by knockout, but his grappling doesn't look too shabby. He seems a little reluctant to go to his wrestling. He's a Division I All-American. I don't know how many years he qualified. It's a little sketchy to find those details on the guy. But when he gets to the ground, he uses his long frame, and he looks like he's learning how to use it now because he's got Bravo chokes, rear naked chokes, different kind of chokes that he's been accruing later in his career. So he looks like a really scrappy guy. He can take a shot. I've seen him on the regional scene. And his only 2 losses that he's had in his career so far were both decisions, pretty competitive decisions. One was a split. The other wasn't even that much of a washout. Like, this guy's competitive. I wouldn't be surprised that he makes this a real competitive fight. Bilal's going to have to fight smart. This isn't a pushover. That's why I stayed away, and I didn't even recommend Bilal for any parlay fodder for minus 400 or whatever he's at now.
All right, next one, David Timur, minus 300. Nick Lentz plus 230. I'm not the biggest Nick Lentz fan at times.
Me too, man. Me too.
A nut job at times.
Yeah.
Somehow we're friends
like
on
Facebook.
Twitter? Yeah.
Okay.
And his thoughts, you know. But whatever. I have to put that to the side.
Yeah.
The dude can wrestle. The dude rose up to the occasion when everyone thought he was a lamb going to slaughter against Will Brooks.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And he came through there. For many years, you know, he's just been a tough out.
Yeah,
but 100%. I know a lot of people love Timur and his striking. How about this fight, Dan? Does the underdog have a good chance there?
Well, I'm glad you referenced the Will Brooks fight because I feel similar. Where I'm picking against Lentz, I'm picking Timur. But Lentz, like he was in that Will Brooks fight, he made it on my DraftKings dog section because he's an underdog where he's live, but also his path to victory involves takedowns, which for your fantasy MMA players, takedowns score you a lot more, especially for DraftKings, the way they revamp the points. So if you're looking for like wrestlers, a lot of times it's a good strategy if you want to get some points there. But not just so much that. Lentz got a great submission game. He's a different type of grappler. Now, that being said, the reason why I picked Timur is because he's not just a Muay Thai fighter. He showed, even though Lando probably should have wrestled a lot more in that fight than he did, let's be honest. That aside, you look at that fight, you look at the fights before, Timur actually has really underrated wrestling. We see a lot of these Muay Thai fighters, right? Of all the strikers, to translate to wrestling, it's usually Muay Thai does it the best. Even with ladies, Valentina Shevchenko, right? We saw her defend the takedowns and parlay it into success against Pena. So this kind of something that translates, and Timur's the same way. His Muay Thai translates real good. He's real strong in the clinch, so I'm favoring him to get the win, but his Lentz live, even though I'm not, like George said, I'm not the biggest fan for my own reasons. Yeah, man, the guy, you cannot disrespect this guy as a fighter, man. And those are he could make those odds a lot closer than they look right now.
And back to Eubanks and Murphy. You did like Eubanks as your winner for the fight?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Me too. She showed that obviously she's a beast on the ground, but she had an incredible strike. I don't know if it was an elbow, a kick, or what in the season. And I thought, wow, she's
picking up, kick off the lead foot.
She's picking up a lot of techniques quickly.
Yeah.
If she can just get the weight thing dialed in, wow, she could be a handful. Maybe at one point the weight might be too much, and she may have to eventually go to 35 because she's just big for 25. But still, man, very impressive. Alvey versus Volante. Alvey's minus 155. Volante plus 125. Volante's way bigger than Alvey.
Yep.
All right, and he's fought at light heavyweight for many years. Alvey's just starting to, what he says, he's six months in. I bet on Alvey, and he's made me some money. But I think it was the last fight. Man, something about when he just tunes out, the offense isn't there, and the urgency to win isn't there. And it frustrated me because I guess he's still taking home some pretty good money. Granted, the win bonus would help, but I was sitting there going, my parlays are going to shit, and you're just, plodding along. And it's not the fight versus latest. I don't think it was that one, because that one he got hurt. Right? He got hurt early. It was another one, man. And so that's why it scares me to bet on Alvey. But I've had some really good success with him in the past.
Yeah.
Tell me, man, why is he the favorite here against Volante? Volante's when he throws and lands, I mean, he can fucking put you out.
I said it. This is what I said in the breakdown is, despite my pick, because I'm picking Alvey, I was surprised that Alvey was the favorite. Like you said, Volante's a guy. He's a bigger 205. He used to fight at heavyweight, and Alvey fought as low as 170 on the Ultimate Fighter. I don't know how he made it then, but yeah, he was a 185er, moved up. And but the thing is, it's like they're both knockout artists, right, George? But you have one guy who just comes forward, knockout, offense, knockout, volume. That's Volante, right? I love volume guys. I love pressure guys. One of my favorite types of fighters. But I also like those southpaw. That's the gassing too, because I think that Volante is going to have to throw more. He's going to have to wrestle more than he normally does to close in. To like you guys always say on the show, speed kills, right? And how do you mitigate that speed advantage? Well, if you want to get super technical, yes, feints help slow a speed advantage down, but really, you really got to work. You got to pressure. You got to suffocate your fighter. You got to wrestle or suffocate with strikes, whatever your forte is. But you also got to put a lot more energy. And like George said, there's not to pick on Volante. He's an athlete, man. He's an in-shape dude. But at the same time, we've seen him in those fights, whether he's winning or losing, he will get tired. In victory or defeat, it happens, right?
Right.
And that's something that I don't know if that's going to happen with Alvey, with the pace that he works in. And you look at
those weight cuts he just told us about, 250 to 205.
And that Tom Lawler check right hook, guys, is still in my head. Do you remember that TJ Dillashaw having an Brow 2 card in Chicago? He hits him with the Tom Lawler hits Gian Volante hit with a right hook, but he hit him with that same right hook like 2 or 3 times in the fight before the one that knocked him out. But Volante just kept walking into it, and I can't get that out of my head, so I ended up picking Alvey. But I know what you mean. I've been there with George, man. He's the kind of guy where I love Alvey, but you're sweating. You're sweating when you're betting him. You're just like, all right, man, let's get it done. Time's ticking, man. Let's pack it up here. Let's pack it up.
One of those was he got hurt early on in the fight.
Yeah.
I remember.
I think it was
I know
right?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, that feeling. And I want to say the other one where you just felt like he didn't have anything was, I think he took one on a short notice.
That one, yeah.
Shorter notice. So he's kind of had like a little bit of a pass in some of those situations. But you're right. When it does go to shit, you just kind of know. You just sit there and go, can we just fast forward because we know where this is going?
Yeah.
How about the other Timur versus RC? RC's minus 185, Timur plus 150.
You know what? I wouldn't blame people for taking a dog shot on Daniel Timur. He's super live here. The line kind of closed in a bit. It was a little wider than with probably what's showing. More respect came in on Daniel Timur, the underdog, but I went with Julio Arce. I'm going with the southpaw here.
You're going with a lot of favorites too. I've written down one underdog.
Yeah. I only have 2. It's one of those.
It's boiled down to that's how MMA is.
But again, it's not just my opinion on this. You look at where the numbers are stacked. The odds makers, you could tell it's a chalk heavy card when the odds makers treat the odds like it's a castle. They're fortifying the walls. They're making sure the numbers are nice and high. So when you get there as a better, you're like, what the fuck? You're just, okay, well, I guess I'll parlay this, and you end up having to make your plays, and that's how they make their money on the back end through parlays. But my one play, we'll probably get to it here in the Saunders Ellenberger. Actually, it's a reasonable play as far as price wise. But I'm backing RSA in this one though. I just think he's more well rounded. It's going to put more activity, and Timur shows the gas, and he's more of a, even though he's a more experienced striker, he's got like 30 plus Muay Thai fights, and 28 of them he won by knockout. That's impressive, but 28 out of 30 wins by knockout tells me you're a do-or-die fighter. When you haven't been out of the first round for your whole career, you get to the UFC, and you're tired in the beginning of the second round after dominating the guy in the first. That's our only sample size of you out of the first round. I gotta with the information that's presented, I gotta imagine you're a do-or-die fighter. So if Arce can survive that first round, then I think it's going to look even better for him. So again, I don't know if you want to live bet it, but you've talked about this scenario on the show before, George. Is when to do live bets. It's those kind of scenarios when you have one guy who's live in that first round, but after he's not so live. That's kind of for you real degenerates out there.
All right, a lot of smart talk here on the show. Let's even things out. Let's get a dummy on. Ben from New York. What's up, Ben?
Well, not much. How you guys doing?
Good, man.
So I was calling about the daily debate. I think that mostly on the coaches and all the corner guys, because their job is basically watch after the fighter and make sure that they're okay coming into the fight. So if I'm a nutritionist and my guy starts complaining about not being able to see things, I'm going to run a couple tests like, how many fingers am I holding up? What color is that wall over there? And if he doesn't pass those, he's done, in my opinion.
Here's the problem, bro. Think about if Greg Popovich or Bill Belichick or any of the great coaches from all over the years always listen to the player. They're the ones that get paid a ton of money to make these decisions that can be unpopular. In a way, you work for the franchise, but the coach is your direct boss, and the coach can make a lot of these decisions. Very once in a while will Belichick say, hey, Brady, come in, shoot the shit with me for 30 minutes because he values that input so much. In MMA, you work for the athlete. You see what I'm saying? And they have these conversations where the athlete stresses to them how important the fight is financially. They're standing within the company, and I'm sure there's lots of conversation, hey, man, don't you dare stop this, or you push me to my limits, or this or that or whatever, unlike other sports, man. So I mean, I wish they had the type of input where they could shut it down, but even the coaches that we respect at the highest level have been doing it for so long, they're always going to listen to their guys, you know what I mean? And they're going to be, those fighters are going to be tough to stop. I just don't see the blame being on there other than if they were to communicate to the promotion, or I don't know, man. I just don't see it.
I like that Ben's bringing an argument for the coaches and corners because, like you said, George, it was the lowest voted for the percentile, and that actually didn't surprise me. I figured they would get the lowest, so I'm actually glad that Ben is making an argument for it, and it's an interesting argument. But like you said, it's a really I like what the word you use. They're working for the fighters at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So whether you have Greg Jackson or whether you have Walter Matthau from the Bad News Bear cracking a beer while Darren Till's cutting weight, I really, I mean, is that the deciding factor? You know what I'm saying? As much as it maybe should be in theory, because what Ben's not saying is necessarily wrong, right? But yeah.
I mean, John Jones, he's not going to get stopped by Greg Jackson. He probably respects Greg Jackson a ton. He's been with him forever, but eventually John Jones is the one that's going to make decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck, as I say that, he did convince him to pull out of UFC 151.
That's true, yeah. You're right. Use it for the example.
There's good coaches and there's bad coaches, right? Like, I mean, come on, seriously. If you're a coach, how many times have we heard, oh, well, the fighter didn't make weight and the fight got canceled? How many coaches do you hear, oh, yeah, but he took care of me on the back end to make up for that? It kind of doesn't happen. If he doesn't fight, you kind of don't get paid. Yeah. So how many coaches do you really think are in that position that would say, all right, I won't take my my 20% or whatever, this, you go ahead and skip this fight. They got mortgages to pay too, and
it was an exception from my end, I guess, to remember UFC 151. But I think I stand by it. You know? And if not, then how about this? All right, Ben, thank you for the call. Great stuff. All right, let's continue on here. We only have a few more, and then we'll actually have gone through the card here.
That's crazy. I'm going to look like either a genius or an idiot compared to who's listening to this for our day after listeners for that portion.
Jake Ellenberg versus Ben Saunders.
All right.
Jake Ellenberger's minus 185. Ben Saunders is plus 150.
I agree with the odds, man. I picked Ellenberger, and it wasn't a homer thing. 'Cause I actually do like both guys. I know you guys have, if I'm guessing, you guys probably have a closer connection with Jay. Obviously, Ben, just because you guys have been covering the sport so long, and Ben's great with the media. But obviously, you guys have have had Jake on here before. He's a great guy, but it has nothing to do with that. I think if Jake comes in, it's essentially the guy who his enemies himself as far as can he fire, which is Ellenberger, whereas Ben Saunders, you don't have to worry about is he going to fire. You have to worry about what he can take, right? Yeah. Because we've seen that damage trend that's been going on for about a couple of years. And I hate to say it, I love Ben Saunders, but these are facts. These are something that are in the record. They're both, but they both have been stopped in 3 of their last 5. They both have been knocked out in 3 of their last 5 fights. So that's kind of troubling. But because of that stat
I
right
think
there,
Ben seems to get wobbled a lot sooner.
I agree too.
Yeah.
I agree too. I think Jake's defense is a bit underrated. I think that's improved through all the strike, because Jake's trained with a lot of good striking coaches. Now he's with Perillo, who's a guy I'm real high on. I think stylistically, if you look at Perillo, his style, what he's done with fighters and resurrecting them, to Jake, his style, his sensibilities, and I think we heard it on the interview. We heard more of a different Jake. He wouldn't sound as complacent, like, oh, well, you know, mental. No, Jake was no nonsense. It sounded like a lot more. At least that's what I got from it. But because of that stat, George, my one play that I did recommendations and stuff, but the one I'm hard on was under. The under, yeah. I don't know what it's listed on there. You can tell me what it says, but I just have a hard time seeing. I picked a Jake by either first or early second round knockout in my official breakdown anyway, so I'm not veering from my analysis there. But the under 1.5, it was minus 115. What does it list on there?
No, it doesn't. It just talks about the bet across 5 dimes, bet DSI, bookmaker,
Dimes it was minus 115, and that's kind of the when I talk about the playable favorite range, where you're still in juice territory, but you're still getting a nice return though if you feel good about what you're playing.
Walt Harris minus 280 versus Daniel Spitz plus 250.
How much for Buffer to do that for his intro?
Yeah, so Walt's the favorite and Spitz is the underdog.
Oh man, well, since Walt's off the show, no, I'm just kidding. No, I do got Walt. I can clean there. It's a pretty big line, and it's dangerous because that's a heavyweight fight, right? It is the lone heavyweight fight on the card, but heavyweights are heavyweights nonetheless. It just takes one shot. Spitz, he used to be a football player, but he wrestled growing up as a kid, so he has some wrestling there. He doesn't show it that often. I suspect he's going to do it here against Harris because Spitz, even though he shows some good boxing and straight punches, what do we notice about tall guys a lot? Their heads are kind of always there, right? You know, they're always kind of just floating in space, and Spitz has a little bit of that. And just like Walt Harris said after he knocked out Chase Sherman, he said, you leave your head on the center line, you see what happens. And I do not want to argue with a man like Walt Harris when he says something and does something like that. So I'm picking Walt Harris attacks that center line, and he does have improved wrestling and stuff himself too. You know, he's done the work at American Top Team. Maybe not for this camp, but he's been there.
That's a good camp for big guys too.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Gregor Gillespie and Vince Pichel. Well, you know what?
We broke that one down here.
Yeah, we broke that one down.
Do you guys still feel the same about it?
I do.
I like. Look, Gillespie might just be the takedown machine and the ground and pound machine. That could very well happen. But what I like is that Pichel does make his strikes count.
Yeah.
I don't think he's as easy to take down as other lightweights who don't come from a wrestling background. He's very confident. So I took a shot on him, you know, because I thought Gillespie should be more like a minus 225, not a minus 450. So it seems like a lot there. Joey Odessa once said, forget about the word value, lose it from your vocabulary when it comes to gambling. And I said, why? He goes, it doesn't matter unless you think you can win. So I always think about that first.
Yep.
And I don't worry so much about what I could make or could not make. I mean, granted, that only matters as far as like how much I want to put down. But I do believe Pichel can win, so I don't mind playing him, especially because my 25 could translate into like $80. You know what I mean? If I lose the 25. Now, let's just say I was one of those that just had to play every fight out there. I'd have to put $45 down to win 10, 90 to win 45 to win 10, 90 to win 20, you know, to kind of give me the range of what I want to win. I don't want to risk that because if I lose the 90, playing $25 a fight, I got to win the next 4 to show a positive $10 for the night.
Right.
That's stupid. I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? He is undefeated. He's never lost. But anyway, all right, let's take a break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back. And I believe we'll have the UFC welterweight world champion Tyron Woodley on the show.
forged from the same ball sack, but act as though they've never met. They are the brothers Garcia, Gorgeous George and Goes.
You know, I was looking at the answers from the Creepy Weasel.
Yeah.
And the first one, because he was the one that said, hey, let's do it, make them weigh in before they step into the cage.
Right.
And the first guy goes, this is at Jeff Kagan on Twitter. Great idea. So then they'll be dehydrated and weak right at fight time. Brilliant.
Twitter's brutal, man. They'll come
But I
at you.
bet you the fighter will go, oh, man, fighter bashing. But the fighter opened himself up by saying, duh, and
Yeah.
putting it out there.
True. Very true.
That's the vibe
Yep.
sometimes fighters give is like, oh, man, you
Yep.
know, we know all. Duh. You've never been in there, blah, blah, blah. And then when they get it back, they're like, oh, man, fighter bashing. You guys are disrespectful. I'm going to block you.
I've never understood that. I mean, I think there is
I try
something
and tell
to
them,
it,
too.
but at the same time, like, what are you going to tell the fighter? Like, hey, dude, you're not allowed to post anything about the presidency. You've
Yeah.
never served in office. Like, I mean, you could do that anywhere.
It's silly. That's why I said at the beginning of it, like, the thing to keep in mind is that, like, the fact that we're having a conversation should mean we're on the same side. I mean, if we all have an interest in the sport, whether it's providing us a job, providing us our dreams like a fighter, or just providing us some entertainment as a fan, we all have to own that and realize we're on the same side at a certain point.
I think I was telling Dan, too, it's like, you could also play the other side. Like, if Dan's actually had an amateur fight. Are you telling me that if he said, but guess what? I've had an amateur fight, the fighter's going to say, oh, okay, now I take your criticism. He's not going to say that. He's going to say, yeah, but that's amateur, dog. That's not a real fight. And then Dan could say, well, I did have one pro fight. Yeah, bro, but that was on the regional scene.
Yeah, where does
That's
the
not
where does the
UFC.
line start and stop?
Oh,
right?
but I have fought on the UFC. That was Fight Pass, dog. You haven't been up in a main card or a main event. Like, there's always an out.
And you
What
see
I'm
that
saying
from
is the
fans,
fighter's
too.
just not going to turn around and say, now you have a point. It's just not going to happen.
And fans are just as brutal too. Not that we're picking on fighters here. I mean, we're talking about more the spirit, you know, of how people communicate. So yeah, remember, we're on the same side, folks. We're on the same side here.
Okay. All right. Did you have another play without getting to Rivera Marias? Because we're going to discuss that with the champ
That was my main one, man. Like I said, like a lot of it, you know, with the analogy of it, the odds makers treating these cards like a fortress. They stack the lines and kind of takes them out of play. So unless you're really just going to go to Parlay Town, you really got to have faith in these dogs like we're talking about. And something you were saying, George, I don't know if you do this, but maybe this is kind of up your alley for as far as dogs go. But whenever you have a favorite that's way bet out of range, even if you're let's say you're a believer on Gillespie, but he's minus 750 instead of minus 400. There are some people, and I don't fault this for him. I would do it a bit too, but I'm kind of a guy. I'm only throwing like $5 or something really small. I'm not going to notice. But when you have those ridiculous odds, like someone was facing Ronda Rousey, even if you didn't believe she was going to win, you just throw the money on there. Because there's always those in the cards. Sometimes they hit. I think you guys mentioned Justin Scoggins the other day, where he's a really excited guy, but he seems like he kind of will throw a fight away sometimes. And he's been on those where he's had some like minus 500, minus 600 odds. And then he would get, choked out by like Oka Sasaki, who's a great fighter, but the odds were a big disparity. And do you subscribe to that? Maybe just throwing you said I agree with Joey
on the
Dessa.
big favorite or on the underdog?
Right. We don't like the word value. I agree. That was a great example. But do you still, you know what I'm saying? Do you still kind of
on
just
the big
toss
favorite or on the underdog?
The big underdog, even if you don't believe in them. Do you still throw
Oh,
a
I've
little
done
bit?
that before. Yeah, especially
Right.
when I'm chasing, just like maybe this one can even the score up a little bit. But sure enough, the underdogs only hit when I bet the favorites, and the favorites only hit.
That's how it always is.
The underdogs. Yeah. So, but how about this one? Out of all the favorites that aren't a big line, which one do you feel good about?
All the favorites that aren't
kind
a
of
big
throw
line?
out Gillespie and Bilal, maybe. Everything else seems to be in a decent range. Is there one where you feel pretty good about, even though they're a favorite?
If I were to have to pick between Gillespie and Bilal, is that anybody aside from Gillespie and Bilal? You mean like I could even pick the minus 280s, or do you want something in the minus 100 range that I like?
Doesn't matter as long as you feel good about the fight.
I'll say I'll go ahead and say Des Green if it's any guys outside of that. Again, that's not the best choice because he's probably like the next highest guy. I imagine of the names you're looking at.
Okay.
I may pull up another one right now. I'm just gonna have a quick refresher to have it in front of me as far as numbers go. Boy, ours.
Remember, your life depends on this.
Yeah. Boy,
Remember.
I would be. Oh my goodness. You know what? I'll go.
I might go with Sarge if my life depended on it.
Yeah, you of all people, your life has been. Say George of all things died because of a woman's fight. All the crappy talk George talk, and now he relies on his tombstone.
But I only talk crap on the non. I just think there's a big difference in the levels of the elite women, and then all of a sudden there's this fall from grace where you're like, oh my God, what am I watching? None of this. We're building a foundation, and no, man, sorry, build it on someone else's time. I just want this fight to end. But when skilled women fight skilled women, I'm just as into it as when skilled men fight skilled men. When they don't and it's sloppy, there's just because for starters, most women's fights start without much of the knockout stats that are supplied by the men.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Correct.
So. There's that. What I will give women is that they play up their fights really well. And when two women get catty with each other, oh, man, you're invested in it. You know what I mean? You know someone's going to take this loss hard, and someone's going to be woohooing all the way to the bank. But that's one thing that I will give the women is that they can sometimes just turn on each other just like that, and you can be into it, you know. Good to go with who? Showtime. Oh, okay.
Oh, nice.
Oh, all right.
Parlay Talk has heard us.
What's up, Showtime? How you doing? It's your time.
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
What's up?
We're doing your segment, bro.
Man. Oh, hey, on the way back, cruising, listening to my favorite guys talk about some fucking parlays. You know, that's like Christmas for me. Hey, I'm waiting to hit me one of those super parlays, and I'm going to put parlay on my tag, probably. Parlay. Showlay.
Hey, Showtime, real quick, before you get into your parlay or whatever you have on your mind, what would your answer be to George's question? Gun to your head, you got to pick. No parlay, just you got to pick one person, though. Favorite.
One person on this card?
To come through, yeah. Gun to the head.
Gun to the head.
We won't hold you on the odds or anything, but...
Man, probably...
I was going to go.
Show ends at noon. Showtime.
I was going to go with Walt for my answer, but George's answer was second for me.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to go with Walt too.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably Walt and
Junkie Karma, man. He's got the Junkie Karma on his side.
Yeah, I'll go with
your
Walt,
life ends
man.
unless you get this fight right. Which fight are you taking out of all these?
Out of all of them,
Walt.
I would say I'm really confident in Jake Ellenberger coming out and just being coming forward, and I think that's when he's most successful. So I would do that one.
Okay. Showtime, you want to finish up?
Yeah, I like Walt Harris. I actually like Ellenberger too, because I was just looking at that. I don't think too many old guys gonna beat up on Ellenberger. I think he had problems when he faced the young guys. I think he'll beat Ben Saunders. I like Sijara Eubanks. I like her in this fight. I like David Demore as well.
Tyron, sir.
And Desmond Green.
Awesome.
I like those. You know,
all right, my man. We got to move on. We got to move on. We got the champ on hold. All right. It's always great to hear from you, Showtime. Be safe out on the road. All right. Our next guest is the UFC welterweight champ. He's got 3 title defenses. Former NCAA wrestling All-American. He's fought at Strikeforce. Now plies his trade as the UFC king at 170 pounds. Fox Sports analyst. TMZ's got a weekly show there. He's all over the place. And he's also been in the movies as well, Hollywood. I don't know how he's got enough time to do it all. How do you have enough time to do it all, Tyron Woodley? You're everywhere.
Hey, I'm everywhere. I'm always working, always grinding. What's up, my man? How you guys doing?
Good. Welcome back to MMA Junkie Radio. We get to see you as an analyst this weekend, starting with pre-fight coverage. 7:30 on Fox Sports 2, and of course Fox Sports 1's got 10 fights after the Fight Pass, and then we'll get to see you on the post-fight coverage. Do you like Friday night events, Tyron? Does it disrupt your week at all, or are you kind of glad to get it and have kind of more of an open weekend?
You know, it just kind of took me off guard because, usually the Strikeforce challenges when I was fighting, we always fought on a Friday. So it made that having to cut weight a little bit earlier I had to get, almost Saturday, Sunday head started on getting the weight down. But I'm so used to a Saturday fight card, I feel like today would normally be our weigh-in show. So it is a bit odd, but, it worked nonetheless.
Tyron, let's start at the top. The main event at UFC Fight Night 131 in Utica, New York is Marlon Moraes versus Jimmy Rivera. The line is pretty close. The matchup is, two top 5 guys in the division, and the stakes are high. The winner could be looking at a title shot later on this year after Cody Garbrandt challenges TJ Dillashaw. So there's really nothing to dislike about this matchup. How do you see it going down tonight?
It's very tough to say because both of these guys do the same thing well. They keep a crazy pace. You look at the flyweight division. Most guys in that division move fast and they punch in high volumes, but their power is not as great as the bantamweight division. You got guys like Garbrandt and Dillashaw who packs the punch as well as a really high output. These guys, man, they swing for the finches, but they are very technical. Rivera came from a wrestling background, but you can see, his striking. He'll go high, he'll go low, he'll use angles, and they both are finishers. So because they might not talk as much, I know they've been going back and forth with each other, and from my understanding, that's mostly due to Moraes' management team, who has said some disrespectful things to Rivera's wife. So I think that's why the animosity. Had that not happened, it probably would have been a very quiet build-up to this fight. And, we're not in an era where just the matchup itself sells a fight. You got to sell the fight verbally, press conferences, social media. So these guys, in my opinion, especially Jimmy, 20-0, 5-0 in the UFC, big win against Uriah Faber, fought against, some studs in the division as well as his opponent. They should have already been in position for a title fight. And, yes, this could be a title eliminator, but let's be real. What if Cody Garbrandt goes out there and knocks out Dillashaw? We got to see his trilogy now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Or if he just wins. So these guys should once again, because of the way our sport moves in the current state of the UFC, they could have to take another extremely tough fight that should have maybe even been reserved for a world title. So I think Rivera maybe gets it done because he's going to try to go for the takedown at some point. And though, his opponent has some crazy jiu-jitsu, I think the wrestler can find his way to half guard, keep a strong base, and avoid submissions and land some meaningful punches.
Tyron, let me ask you something about Jimmy Rivera. He's out of the Tiger Schulman camp. He trains, but he also teaches. Moraes comes out of a camp that's lineage is Renzo Gracie, and then, of course, Mark Henry and Ricardo Almeida are more applicable to him. But he has training partners that have had so much success, starting with Frankie Edgar and all that. Can sometimes when we go down a scorecard, can sometimes just your camp even be an advantage? The coaches that have tasted success and your teammates that have tested success, do you ever dive that far into all those intangibles?
You have to, because, some camps have certain tendencies. Some camps, have certain themes that they fight in. And really, if you look at the nature of our game, recently a lot of guys are having some success going to the body, punching to the body. Also, the guys that are better conditioned and that are scrambling more are winning. People that are more relaxed and loose. You watch the way that George switched it up against Bisping. He kind of looked at loose and relaxed. The way that Rose Namajunas beat Joanna. The more uptight, upright fighter, they're losing now because the guys that are relaxed and whipping their punches, coaches find those behaviors, they find those themes, and they find basically what they find basically.
You got a drive-through, champ?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. People that coaches that watch the game that way, they find those things. So if someone's knowing that everybody's going to the body, I think how many finishes we've seen in the last few UFCs, people getting hit to the body and stop.
Right.
So now the coaches that got the wrist to the ground, they're going to be coming up with defenses to that. Or they're going to start incorporating that. They're going to start incorporating that into the regimen. And also just the mindset and the confidence. Like when I think about Duke Rufus or Dean Thomas, my coaches, they don't have to have that ego. They don't have to have those insecurities that some striking coaches have. I'm going to train with this striking coach. I'm the best, and nobody else technique. I'm the only way to do it. People work well with others that have the same great minds. So that's what I'm looking at when I look at a TriStar camp. I can expect them to be, very well rounded, using the jab a lot. Pressuring, but very calculated and strategic. Same thing with the Greg Jackson camp. I can expect them to potentially maybe not get into the brawl, maybe not get into a crazy slugfest, but also they're going to find their moments and they're going to be very strategic. Some camps are AKA, they come in to bang, they come in to hit you, they're in good shape. If they made it to the fight, their chances of winning are very high because a lot of times they train so hard in the gym, sometimes the injury comes within the camp. So I can look at a camp and I can tell you kind of what to expect from that fighter at King's MMA. I can tell you what to expect from a fighter like that, and that's definitely going to play a part in the fight.
He's right. Team Alpha Male, they attack the neck. American Top Team, they crush your calves. So a lot of teams have these identities. All right, Goes, what do you have for the champ, Tyron Woodley?
Gregor Gillespie and Vince Pichel. This is a fight that we've talked about a lot on this show. The odds are on Gregor's side, but we feel like it's a lot closer fight than what the odds are saying. We feel like Vince Pichel could be a live dog here. Can you break that fight down for us?
I agree with you. And the thing about this is Gregor Gillespie is a complete G. I remember him in Edinburgh. One of my favorite fighters to watch. My goodness. He just had conditioning for days, relentless, one of the best scramblers to ever go down in the history of collision wrestling. And he just does not give a you-know-what. So when you think about this matchup, this is a very tough matchup. And it's almost one that had down the road when both of these guys get their names up a little bit more. So they're fighting almost a premature fight of two styles clashing. I do think Gregor just has that mentality. He's another guy, just like Rivera, that chooses not to call people out. We had him on the desk. He said, that's not my job. I'm just going out there to fight and win. I'm not going to ever call anybody out. Hopefully someone gets in his ear and he eventually changes that, because sometimes you got to be vocal. It's not being disrespectful. It's not talking crap. It's basically saying, I want to fight this guy because he's at this level, or he's ranked this, or he has the belt that I want. And you're just communicating what you want. And he, in my opinion, is just going to be a little bit too much. When you have that wrestling background, it's always a threat for your opponent, and it allows you to use your striking. It's been very beneficial to me. The fact that you know that I can take you down, anytime I drop my level, anytime I reach for the leg, you got to respect it, even if I don't commit to it. So he has that. He's willing to take a punch. He's willing to give a punch. But he got a tough customer in Vince, man. He's not going to just lay down and let it happen. So this is a test and challenge we need to see happen for Gregor if we're going to be, I think he's going to be in a hunt for a title here in the next 2 years. So if I'm going to say that, I would like to see him challenged, and this is a proper challenge at the right time.
Tyron Woodley, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He will be on the desk tonight. Remember, folks, the fights are tonight. It all starts with a pre-event show at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 2. The post-event show kicks off at 1 a.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 1. And, of course, Fight Pass has you covered for the first 3 fights. And then it's 10 in a row on Fox Sports 1 starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We got about 1 minute left. Dan Tom, our fight analyst, has something for you, champ. What do you have for Tyron Woodley, Dan?
Man, I hate to interrupt the analyst talk because I really love that aspect of Tyron here, especially the things he said about Gregor, which is serious. But Tyron, I'm on your Instagram right now, and you're not just staying mentally sharp. It looks like you're staying physically sharp, too, even on the pads. I know you just had the shoulder surgery, but you look really sharp here. How are you doing on that end, champ?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready, my man. I've been clear to go 100% on all things. Obviously, I'm still doing rehab. I'm still, getting the strength back, and I'm still doing those things, but it's not restricting me from going live. I was with Jay's yesterday training, did some great work, hit the bag a little bit. I'm going to hop off with you guys. I got a meeting real quick, and then I'm going to go train again. I'm projected to be back August 4th. That's when I want to fight. I want to fight in L.A. I'm not really concerned with, who's ready, who's next. Like you got to realize there's certain rights you reserve as a champion. When I'm ready to fight, now it's time to fight. Whoever they got for me to fight at this time, come get this work. I don't want to sit back and say, I want to wait and see what happens with this fight. I'm the champion. I want to fight. Some of these bouts should have taken place anyway. Maybe not with the label of interim title, but I think at that point, you make a fight, whether it's even if it's somebody that's not currently, in the division. Maybe it's a Diaz brother. Maybe it's, well, obviously, maybe not Nick, because I'll have to get in a little trouble. But maybe it's Nate. Maybe it's George. Maybe it's somebody else. But I'm also willing to fight all these other guys. I kind of want to legitimately clean the division. I wouldn't mind fighting RDA, Kobe, Usman, Till. And at that point, when that's another prospect emerges, I'll clean out the division. And I'm the greatest welterweight of all time at that point. And then it's time to go up to 185. Then I want that belt. Then I want to defend. I don't want to just go up there to get 2 belts, say I got it. I want to finish off my division. When it's all said and done, I did everything I can do there. I want to go up and challenge myself once again, and I want to try to win the belt at 85 and defend there and pretty much retire as a middleweight.
All right, my man. Well, listen, it's a great catch-up. I'm glad you're healthy. August 4th sounds good to me. But in the meantime, break a leg on that Fox Sports desk. And thank you for the time, as always. Hopefully we can do a catch-up in a few weeks.
All right, no problem. Thank you, guys.
Take care. All right, folks, quick commercial time. We'll be right back to wrap up the show.
Taught Andy Griffith how to whistle. Here are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Big thanks to all of our guests, not just for today, but throughout the week. One by one, we had the headliner on tonight's card, Marlon Moraes, on Monday's show. He and Jimmy Rivera, they will headline tonight, 10 Eastern on Fox Sports 1. These are bantamweights, high-ranked bantamweights. The winner could be looking at a title shot. Sean Wheelock. Let's not forget the bare knuckle guys. They're doing it. They're doing their thing tomorrow.
Sean
$30
Wyoming.
for that pay-per-view. Some popular names on there. Might be worth $30. If they burn me, they burn me, and if not, hey, it might be a bloody night. John Vellante, Sam Alvey, they face each other tonight. Josh Copeland, Sean Jordan, Steven Seiler, all three of them fighting next week, PFL 1 on Thursday. They start things off. They have a regular season, playoffs, and then millionaires come out of that on December 31st. Dan Stupp, our editor-in-chief, also a co-founder of MMA Junkie. Mark Montoya, coach on Team Miocic, featured on the reality show, The Ultimate Fighter, on Wednesdays at 10 Eastern on Fox Sports 1. And today, Walt Harris and Tyron Woodley. Shout out to myself for lining up the Harris interview. John Stauffer from Fox lining up the Tyron Woodley interview. Monday, we'll have Dan Ige in studio. He will be our co-host for the day. Next Wednesday, Brad Tavares will be our co-host for the day. And, of course, we'll continue padding the schedule so we can have a fun week of fights as we lead into UFC Fight Night 225. Have a nice weekend, everybody. For Goes and Dan and Danny, I'm George. Go out there and be a champion.